somewhere right now, someone is doing everything right. Hitting the gym 4 times a week, eating chicken breast like it's a personality trait, posting the occasional shirtless mirror selfie captioned, "Grind never stops." And somehow, 6 months later, they look exactly the same. Not worse, not better, just the same. Standing in the same mirror, taking suspiciously similar photos, flexing at slightly different angles, hoping the lighting will finally cooperate, wondering if their body simply refuses to participate in its own transformation out of spite. Here's the thing nobody wants to hear. It's probably not the workout. It's one of 10 sneaky little habits quietly sabotaging everything happening in the gym, and most of them have nothing to do with how hard you're lifting. Consider this a public audit of your entire lifestyle, conducted with love, several jokes, and zero judgment. Because honestly, almost everyone watching this is guilty of at least 3 of these, including whoever wrote the script. Number 10 is skipping the warm-up like it's an optional cutscene in a video game. You know the type. Straight from the car to the barbell, 0 to maximum effort in under 90 seconds. A cold muscle is a stiff, uncooperative muscle, and jumping straight into heavy weight is basically asking your tendons to perform a stunt they weren't briefed on. This is less about burning extra calories and more about not spending the next 2 weeks doing everything one-handed because you tweaked something you didn't know could tweak. Number 9 is program hopping, otherwise known as chasing whatever workout a stranger on the internet did for exactly 11 days before switching to a completely different one. Muscles grow through a principle called progressive overload, gradually asking them to do slightly more over time, and that requires actually repeating a program long enough to track whether you're improving. Bouncing between routines every other week is like trying to learn a language by studying a new one every Tuesday. Impressive commitment, zero fluency. Number 8 is the crash diet, dropping your calories so low, so fast that your body panics and starts treating your muscle tissue as an emergency snack. This is one of those food myths that refuses to die. The idea that less is always better and faster is always smarter. That a 500-calorie deficit works, a 1,500-calorie deficit must work 3 times as fast. In reality, an extremely aggressive deficit doesn't just burn fat, it quietly cannibalizes the very muscle you've been building for months, which is the fitness equivalent of renovating your kitchen by removing a support beam because it seemed like the fastest way to get more space. Number 7 is eating all your protein in one heroic dinner instead of spreading it out. Muscle-building research points to something called the leucine threshold, roughly the minimum dose of protein a single meal needs to meaningfully trigger muscle repair, somewhere around 25 to 30 grams. Eat a tiny breakfast, a token lunch, and then an entire high-protein feast at 8 p.m., and you're only really hitting that trigger once a day instead of 3 times. Your muscles aren't stingy. They just need the invitation repeated. Number 6 is treating cardio and lifting like they belong in the same rushed 30 minutes back-to-back every single time. Sprinting on the treadmill and then immediately grabbing a barbell like your legs just filed a complaint. Research on this so-called interference effect has actually softened considerably over the years. A large systematic review found the overall damage to muscle growth was smaller than gym folklore suggests. But it's still measurably worse, specifically when you run hard and lift heavy in the exact same session with zero recovery between them, and worse with running than with cycling for reasons that seem to come down to how much pounding your legs take. Separate them by a few hours or even different days, and most of that penalty quietly disappears. Turns out your muscles just wanted a little personal space, not a full breakup. Number 5 is the post-workout drinking session, treating alcohol like a reward for finishing leg day. Here's the health myth worth retiring immediately. A couple drinks after training are basically harmless because you earned it. Your body will just process it and move on like nothing happened. Research measuring muscle repair after exercise found alcohol reduced the rate of muscle protein synthesis by roughly a quarter, even when protein was consumed alongside it, and by closer to a third when it wasn't. Meaning the protein shake you smugly drank right after your beer was fighting an uphill battle it mostly lost. Your body's trying to rebuild itself after you just spent an hour intentionally damaging it in a controlled way, and alcohol shows up like a contractor who wandered onto the job site, started unplugging things, and insisted he was helping. Number 4 is skimping on sleep like it's a luxury add-on instead of the actual foundation of recovery. One night of poor sleep has been shown to drop muscle protein synthesis by close to 18%, while spiking cortisol by around 20% and dropping testosterone by roughly a quarter, all within a single day, which is an aggressive amount of damage for something that technically didn't involve leaving your bed. Keep that pattern going for a week, and testosterone can fall by 10 to 15%, an effect researchers have compared to aging a decade almost overnight. And if you're dieting on top of that sleep debt, research shows a shockingly higher share of the weight you lose ends up coming from muscle instead of fat, meaning you can do everything else correctly and still hand your hard-earned gains to a bad mattress and a phone screen at midnight. Sleep isn't when your gains show up, it's when they're actually built, quietly, while you're doing absolutely nothing that looks impressive on camera. Number 3 is chronic, low-grade stress, the kind that never fully switches off. Cortisol isn't evil, your body needs some, but constantly elevated cortisol nudges your body towards storing fat and breaking down muscle tissue for energy, the exact opposite of what you're in the gym trying to accomplish. You can nail every set and every meal and still lose ground to a nervous system that's permanently stuck in fight or flight over emails. Number 2 is comparing your 6-month progress to someone's 6-year progress, usually filtered, flexed, and lit like a Renaissance painting. This one's less biological and more psychological sabotage, but it's brutally effective, since discouragement is one of the top reasons people quit training altogether. Nobody has ever built noticeable muscle by feeling bad about not already having it. And number 1, the habit that quietly undoes literally everything else on this list: never actually resting. Treating rest days as wasted days, training through nagging pain, refusing to ever deload because stopping feels like losing. Muscle doesn't grow during the workout, it grows during the recovery after it, when your body actually has the bandwidth to repair the damage you just intentionally caused. Skip that step consistently, and you're not committed. You're just accumulating fatigue with really good intentions. So no, your body isn't broken and it isn't secretly working against you out of spite, no matter how personal it feels standing in that same mirror. It's just responding, quite literally, to everything you're doing outside the 50 minutes you spend actually lifting things. The gym is maybe 10% of this equation. Sleep, stress, alcohol, timing, and simple consistency make up the other 90, which is honestly great news because most of that is a lot easier to fix than your bench press. You don't need a better program. You need a better bedtime, a shorter guest list at happy hour, and the patience to run the same routine for longer than 11 days. The gains were never hiding. They were just waiting for you to stop sabotaging them in 9 sneaky ways before you even walked through the gym door.